It's been 12 years since the original Ruby and Sapphire Pokemon games hit the Game Boy Advance. These new games introduced us to the new land of Hoenn, Team Aqua and Team Magma, a full new roster of Pokemon, and tons of improvements to Pokemon's original gameplay mechanics. While many didn't get a chance to visit Hoenn, either because they fell out of the Pokemon craze or they weren't even born yet, Game Freak's 3D revival as Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is a fantastic game for newcomers and returning veterans alike. I'm not going to spend much of this review talking about the main gameplay mechanics. Pokemon has changed very little over the years, and this game is no different. You choose a starter Pokemon, capture and train new companions, all while fighting off the Pokemon League, your game's evil team, and saving the world. The evil team you face off against is the same color as your game, with Sapphire's Aqua planning to drown the world, and Ruby's Magma hoping to evaporate it. The story isn't deep, it's just classic Pokemon save the world antics at its best. Visually, this game uses the X and Y engine, but I feel like Game Freak has taken the time to really make this the most beautiful portable Pokemon game to date. There are far more moving cutscenes and dynamic viewing angles than X and Y had to offer, and it really makes it hard to go back to looking at the Game Boy Advance's static overworld. One of my favorite parts about the land of Hoenn is that there are many alternate routes, paths, and caves to explore throughout the story. There's a huge mix of terrain, including an expansive sea full of secrets that can be uncovered by diving deep underwater using the game's dive ability. My only gripe with this is that when adventuring, if you want to truly explore the world, you're going to need a lot of HMs. Moves that allow you to perform actions in the field, but aren't often strong in battle. I had to fill 2 of my Pokemon slots with useless HM slaves for Cut, Surf, Strength, Rock Smash, Dive, Waterfall, Flash, and the not needed but very useful Secret Power. On the bright side, there's some improvements to old HMs such as Fly, which can now take you directly to routes and important areas instead of just towns. A huge time saver. Many of X and Y's bottom screen features return, including Pokemon and Me, Super Training, and the PSS. Aside from the copied X and Y elements though, there's a ton that you can do on the bottom screen of the game throughout your adventure. The Buzz Nav feeds you with news stories about the world around you, updating with news about your friends if they have the game as well. It's pretty simple, but fun color to have while you go through your journey. There's also the extremely helpful Area Nav, which displays a bottom screen map that can be used to check up on an area's Pokemon, trainers that want to rebattle, and even berries. My personal favorite new tool though is the Dex Nav, which allows you to see every Pokemon you've caught on a route already, while also giving you a crown on the corner of your screen indicating when you've caught every possible Pokemon that can be found on a route. This is huge for players who want to get one of everybody, catching them all if you will, allowing them to know when you can use a repel and get on with your journey. The other neat new feature is using the Dex Nav scanner. Every once in a while, a Pokemon will show up that you can creep up on slowly by tilting on the circle pad. The closer you get, the more info about the Pokemon you'll learn. You can also intentionally scan for Pokemon that you've already caught, and the more items you've scanned on the same Pokemon, the better their moves will be, the better their levels will be, and you can even sometimes find hidden abilities. In terms of revamped Ruby and Sapphire mechanics, we have contests and secret bases. Contests have actually been a little simplified in this game. In this mode, you compete in battles of 5 talents: cool, cute, tough, clever, and beautiful, against either your friends or other contestants. One of my favorite aspects about contests is that many moves are good in contests that aren't that great in battles, giving you a different perspective. The simplified element in this game is the creation of Pokeblocks, or food that can increase certain contest stats. Instead of the old rhythm minigame, feels, and flavors, you simply combine berries in a blender to make easy to understand stat boosts. You're also given the adorable cosplay Pikachu, which can change outfits in order to learn new attacks to aid you in different contests. This Pikachu already begins with very good contest stats, making it pretty easy to win all the contests if you're a beginner. Contests were a fun diversion, but I did find them a little repetitive and easy once I learned what I was doing. Secret bases also make their much awaited return from Ruby and Sapphire, and these can be a huge time sink. Throughout the land, there are dozens of locations that you can use secret power on to find a new land that you can claim as your own. Once you've opened up a base, you can work on an Animal Crossing-like room building mode where you can freely decorate and rotate furniture for friends to visit. You can even set battle rules and create a mini gym to battle friends in. You can't really make anything as huge or elaborate as real gyms, but it's still a ton of fun to build and customize your own place. You're also given the ability to easily share your bases with friends using a QR code generator, making it simple to add new bases to your world from others. I'm working on a pretty fun base right now, but once I have everything I'm looking for, I'll share my code in a future video. The overall game is extremely true to the original Ruby and Sapphire with just a few minor changes. For one, the game will often give you the ability to travel with a companion directly to a past city if it's required for the story. This saves you a lot of time if you're looking to clear the adventure mode as quickly as possible, but you might end up skipping side routes along the way. Another type of shortcut returning to Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire is the EXP share. You get this item very early on, and it shares the Pokemon X and Y improvement where it gives extra experience to your full party. The item is a tough double-edged sword though. It makes leveling your entire team much easier, but it also makes clearing the game a lot easier than it was in the originals. Thankfully, this item is once again your choice to turn off and on as you please. Mauville City has also become an expansive shopping center to get lost in, which I will forever be calling Mallville from now on. It's a welcome change, especially for those who like shopping in Lumio City from X and Y. The legendary Pokémon, Kyogre and Groudon, have a new Mega Evolution-like state called Primal Reversion, but honestly this new form changes very little in the story. Speaking of Megas, there are a lot of Mega Stones in this game, both completely new forms and old stones found throughout the Kalos region. Thankfully, these stones aren't limited to being found in a specific time frame like in X and Y, and you can uncover most of them at any time in the post-game. The new forms are a lot of fun to watch in action, but perhaps one of my biggest disappointments was that Pokémon revealed every single new Mega Evolution available in the games with their trailers. I know it's a weird thing to complain about because it technically isn't a gameplay issue, but one of my favorite aspects of Mega Evolution in X and Y was uncovering all of the forms that weren't already revealed. And finally, there's the post-game. Once you've completed the Elite Four, a special side story called the Delta episode emerges, gearing to bridge the gap a little for fans of the original Ruby and Sapphire side game, Emerald. I'm not a huge fan of the new character Zinnia, whose story and backstory kind of just come out of nowhere. The Delta episode tries to draw some ties with X and Y as well as Mega Evolution, but overall I think the tale just creates more questions rather than answers. From a gameplay perspective though, it adds a handful of fun new bosses, and perhaps the hardest legendary Pokemon to capture in a Pokemon game, period. I won't spoil what makes this fight so hard, but I will admit it. Deoxys was the first legendary I forced myself to use a Master Ball on in a long time. The Delta episode should run you a couple of hours tops, but it does open up a new area called the Battle Resort, full of high-level trainers and a copy-paste drop of the increasingly cruel Battle Mason from X and Y. There is a big thing missing though that fans of Emerald are sure to miss, and that's the Battle Frontier. Strangely enough, this game even drops a huge hint, with a mini model of the Battle Frontier, and many characters saying that it's coming soon. Is it possible this function could return in the form of downloadable content? Maybe, but for now it's definitely something that I miss. Is there more to do in the post-game past that? Sure, but I won't spoil everything. I do encourage you though to take on the Elite Four more than one time, while also revisiting towns and caves after you've completed the main story. You can also hunt additional legendaries by soaring directly on a Mega Latios or Latios. Not only is this a beautiful little side adventure, but you can also summon your Pokemon directly with a key item, allowing you to easily travel from town to town without requiring a Pokemon with the HM Fly. Overall, Alpha and Omega are an interesting mix. It borrows a lot from X and Y, from the visuals to online functionality to the post-game battle arena, and if you found yourself feeling a little Pokemon'd out from the first Pokemon 3DS games, I don't think these games will impress you that much. However, if you're a fan of the original Ruby and Sapphire, or want to experience Hoenn for the first time, there is still a beautiful land full of surprises to explore. I can't put my finger on it exactly, but there's just something about playing these games that just gets me in a great mood. It brought back a ton of nostalgia, and in general I found myself having more fun than I did with my last adventure in X and Y. The main adventure ran me about 25 hours, but I've currently put in 50, and I'm still looking around the land to uncover more secrets that weren't there the first time I played Ruby and Sapphire.